Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we try to figure out how to build and run a SaaS. I'm Brian.
And I'm Benedikt. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we work on our products and keep the lights on with consulting. Today is September 10th, and I'm feeling excited.
This is episode number 8, and I am feeling calm. That's awesome.
Nice.
We have two positive emotions coming off of last week's, like, what was it? Distracted and stuck or something like that. I don't remember, but...
I think it was unfocused for me, but yeah.
Yeah. What's got you excited?
I've got a new microphone and I've got more new gear incoming. Basically got myself of course, a new microphone that's hopefully sounding better. You be the judge. And
it does sound better to me already.
That's good to know. And also I got myself a boom arm for the microphone, and that should be getting here in a couple of days. So yeah, leveling up my recording setup, I guess.
Which microphone did you go with?
It's a Samsung Q2U. I think that's the name of it. I think it's the same one as yours, but like with a different name. But like from the microphone itself, it should be pretty similar.
Nice, man. Well, I'm glad you're so excited about it. Anything else from the week that has you feeling good?
Yeah, the feature I've been working on from last week that I mentioned, the file upload and the image dialog, is almost shipped. Like there's one tiny thing I need to polish, but then it's ready to go live on production. And that's pretty cool.
Cool.
It was a good week.
Did you felt like, if I'm remembering right, you felt pretty good about that one last week? Did anything come up that you had to sort out, or it feels like it's coming together pretty good?
Yeah, it feels like it's coming together pretty good. There were no major bumps in this. Not like with the other features I've been working on lately, but this one was pretty smooth. But I mean, that I guess that was the point of doing it, just to ship something for a change.
Well, and it felt pretty well contained. How are you feeling about in-app messaging right now?
I'm still excited about a new approach, and once this feature is shipped, I'll give it another go and see what I can come up with. But I still have a good feeling. This sounds like the way to go.
Nice. That's awesome.
How was your week?
I had a good week. Let's see. I had a fair amount of client work on Thursday and Friday. My kind of anchor client right now has a big meeting coming up with a bunch of their clients and potential clients and all that sort of thing. And so I think that's the end of this. I'm pretty sure it's at the end of this week. At any rate, I've had a fair amount of work to do for them, and so that's kept me pretty busy. I did have my second mastermind group on Friday, which was really good. Once again, that felt. I'm already enjoying that quite a bit, and I'm liking the format, and it's good. It's good. I've done three total interviews so far. Reached out to a bunch of folks. Should get the exact number on this just so I can kind of see like what is the response rate, but probably reached out to 20 to 25 or so people about the whole remote work doesn't have to be lonely concept. I've got 6 interviews scheduled. I've done 3 of them. Actually did one literally 30 minutes before we jumped on this call.
Nice.
And then 2 later today, 1 tomorrow. So just go ahead.
Did you get any insights from those calls? Are there any learnings already that you can share, or is it still mostly discovery and no patterns emerging and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say is that it's there's definitely a pattern of full agreement on, yeah, you have to be really intentional about this. Everybody that I've spoken to has, let's see, one person, well, everybody I've spoken to has team members that are remote or are themselves remote.
Mm-hmm.
And the pattern is definitely, yeah, it's funny, this stuff just happens naturally in the office, but once you go remote for the first 6 months, you're just loving it and loving the productivity, and then at some point you look up and realize, oh my gosh, there was all this stuff that was happening by default in the office that doesn't happen unless you schedule it. And then there's a social cost to scheduling. Nobody likes meetings, and now we're scheduling meetings so that we can talk to each other.
Mm.
It's a little bit of that. But I would say at this point, no, yeah, and like no invalidation quite yet. One of the three folks I've talked to, I think, is definitely not a potential customer because such a small percentage of their people are remote, like 15 out of 200.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I were to do something, I would want to focus strictly on, remote first, completely
Mm-hmm.
remote teams,
Yeah.
just to have a really limited use case.
Yeah.
Um, so
But I guess like the the hybrid teams are probably a whole different story and a whole different challenge. I feel like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
probably another product there as well, just for those
yeah,
that try to pull off
yeah,
both.
potentially so. I mean, I don't. I think I tend to also kind of wonder, if you have, even if you have 5 people out of 200 that are remote, then you have to start thinking about remote
Yeah,
issues,
yeah,
maybe even more so, because those people are going to feel like black sheep, in a
yeah.
company. Anyway, it's been energizing. It's really, I'm not gonna, this at this point, it feels like additional validation just from the conversations that I was already having with people, like over email and over DMs on Twitter. um, that the problem is definitely there. There's a market, you know, likely there. The question is, what's the product, and what's the product
Mm.
risk? I mean, what could, is there something that could be built that addresses it in a unique and different way?
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out, but still having some more conversations and getting some more insights. I've heard about several new tools that I hadn't heard of before that sound kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
One is Donut. Have you heard of this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't heard of it either, but a couple people, two of the three that I've even talked to have mentioned it, and then several people that I've talked to, just over DMs, mentioned it as one of the tools that their company uses. But basically, it's a Slack bot that you pull into your company's Slack, and it kind of goes through everybody's message history and finds people who don't talk to each other very often, and then
Mm.
connects them for a donut meeting. Um, so that's kind of a, I don't know, that's a fascinating idea. Um, anyway, so that's just one of several. I just think I always get a kind of a kick out of hearing about new tools and
Yeah,
checking them out,
that
seeing what
sounds
people
like
are up
fun
to.
too.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was my work week. Yesterday I took a solo day off. It's something that my therapist and I have been talking about over the last month and a half or so. It's just like every now and then, just schedule a day during the week just to take off by yourself, um, and just use that to recharge. So yesterday I did some fly fishing, sat by a river and read on my Kindle, and went to a batting cage in the afternoon. Do you this Do you know what a batting cage is? Is that like a term in Germany?
I don't think so. What's a
Okay,
batting
yes.
cage?
I just realized that probably sounds really odd. So Major League Baseball, super huge over here in the States, and I grew up playing baseball. So
Hmm.
a batting cage is this, it's like I don't know, like 8 yards wide by 15 yards long, and there's a pitching machine that just it's like these two wheels
Ah, okay, I
spinning,
see.
and it throws pitches to you, and so you just get to stand there and hit for a while. So anyway, yeah, that was really fun. I got tired. It's way too early. It's like, oh man, I'm not 17 anymore. But anyway, it's a good relaxing day. What else from your week, man? Anything else you want to dig into?
um, well, a lot of consulting work as well. I'm about to finish a project for one, like a super small project for one consulting client, and they are basically looking at exporting their existing Facebook group. They had like a private Facebook group to accommodate their product, and they moved that off to another tool, and then I want to get the data out of that group. So I built a tool to do the export, but there's a rate limit on the Facebook API that only allows like 200 requests per user per hour. And this tool I wrote, I'm basically the only user, so I've got 200 requests per hour for a Facebook group with, I don't know, probably 600 posts or so, not
Okay.
including comments. And that export has been running for the last, I don't know, by now it's probably almost 24 hours.
Okay.
And it still hasn't finished.
Oh man.
So looks like Facebook is really
It's
good
just
with collecting data, but not good with sharing it. I mean,
shocker.
no surprise there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope it will finish eventually.
Nice. What
And
else?
what else? I finished another. No, I don't. I didn't finish it, but I closed another consulting project that will hopefully
Oh,
start soon.
congrats, man.
So that's nice. I'm excited about
Yeah.
that.
Good. Well,
Yeah,
this will that that'll segue pretty nicely into what we wanted to talk about for a little bit. Um, because let me ask you, how did you get that deal? Where'd you get that lead?
I got that lead. Good question. I don't really know. It just
Well,
showed up.
then yeah.
it
Did
it was
did it did it
yeah.
come through your website?
And probably not. I think it was one
Okay.
of those things. So the company I'm working with, or I'm going to be working with, uh, I knew about them. We are actually a user with user list, and they've been part of my extended network for a while, I guess.
Okay.
And they reached out to me asking if I'd be open to helping them with some new features. Um, I think they mentioned they also read a blog post and used some ideas from that. So maybe the website helped a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
Um, but I think it wasn't like we discussed last week where they Googled for Ruby on Rails developer and landed on my website and then decided to hire me. So
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
the website might have helped, but it was pretty sure wasn't the main thing that got us
Yeah.
going.
Right. Right. Got it. Well, that's kind of the topic we're gonna, or related anyway, to the topic we're gonna discuss today, was just how do we do consulting, right? Is that
Yeah,
that's how do we get our clients? What are our projects like? How do we bill, etc. Sound sound good?
yep, sounds good with me. So how
Okay.
do you
Well,
get your clients usually?
yeah. So I've been doing freelancing and consulting for wow, is it almost exactly 2 years? Pretty much 2 years. 100% of my clients have come from client referrals or within my network.
Mm-hmm.
Um, zero, zero inbound, like from my site or
Yeah.
from an article or anything at all like that. Um, and so, which is good. I mean, it means that when I get a lead, like the close rate is, just ridiculously high.
Mm,
Um, because it's coming from a referral or some trusted thing. The downside is that they are sporadic and unpredictable.
yeah.
These are two, like, that's very well documented about consulting and freelance life. So what about you? Where do you get your clients?
Yeah, it's similar
Or
with me.
yeah,
And as you said, like the frustrating thing about it, it's unpredictable, and at least in my experience, it usually comes in waves. So there's either no work at all or too much work at once.
yeah,
Um,
that's the feast or famine phenomenon. Like it's
yeah,
so it's so common that it has names. And
yeah, exactly.
um,
And that's kind of frustrating. But then again, it still works well enough, so I don't have to worry about it, I guess.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, as long as if you can have, patience and a little bit of trust in the downtime, like work is going to show up that you use that downtime to recharge or work on your own thing, I suppose. Do you
yeah,
feel like you're pretty good about that?
yeah. It's well, it's a learned skill, I guess. I remember 2 years ago, I had this one downtime where no work was coming in, and I also didn't have a side project to work on, and that was tough.
Mm,
And eventually, the thing that came out of it was the landing page for the book idea I have about
okay.
have this idea for this book about basically building software as a service applications and just covering the technical side of things, because I feel like there isn't that much stuff out there for it. But basically, the moment I published the landing page, um, for one, Jane came up with the idea for user lists, so that took away
Okay.
quite a bit of my
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
I also got I think 2 or 3 consulting clients at the same time. So after publishing that landing page,
Of course.
I didn't
I
make
don't
any
think you've
progress on
I don't think
that.
you've talked about that. I don't think you've talked about that book idea here. Is that still just kind of percolating out there, or no thanks, you've got
Well,
user
there's
list and
a reason
consulting
why I
clients
don't
now?
talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
usually, I mean, the landing page is still up. There are still people signing up for the mailing list from time to time,
uh-huh.
but I haven't worked on it for a long time,
Okay.
and yeah, I usually don't mention it because then people just ask me, "Hey, what's the progress on your
What's the
book?" And I have to
deal?
tell them,
Yeah.
"Yeah, no progress on the book at all."
None. Yeah.
And I feel like so
Mm-mm.
everyone listening to this who's on the mailing list either has figured it out by themselves by now, or is now super surprised and sad. Uh, that that is probably still it'll probably still take a while for that book to publish.
Yeah. Mm.
But yeah,
That's
that's stuff that happens when there's no consulting work.
Yeah, something you said in there was interesting to me, that it's a learned skill. Um, I do not think that I have learned that skill very, very well. Like the idea of just being relaxed during the times of famine. Um, I think the way that I've felt it and even described it to some people is that, you know when when there isn't any work, I just feel like, well, I need to be producing a bunch of marketing stuff and
Mm.
figuring out the sales process and marketing process, and um, but because I don't know, I think you should. Like if there's not business coming in, then use that time uh, to do those things. So I guess it hasn't felt very energize or not energizing, but just hasn't felt very like a time to recharge or to be able to relax. Um, but what the things that we're talking about here, feast or famine mode, not really knowing where your next leads are going to come from. Um, that there are whole industries, or not industries, but there's a great little cottage industry around helping freelancers and consultants like us to smooth out that lumpiness and to have a steady influx of inbound leads that are then well qualified through an email funnel process or whatever, so that you get out of the feast and famine mode. I mean,
Mm.
I think I've just delivered their pitch pretty well because I've heard it 50 times.
Yeah.
Would you Would you agree?
Well, the idea sounds great, but as I mentioned last week, it hasn't worked for me, and that might be for several reasons. Maybe I didn't put enough energy into it. Maybe my positioning isn't the best fit for stuff like that, um, and that might very well be a main reason. Because like I have a hard time basically packaging up my services. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think those things probably work very well when you're always selling the same thing and the same, I don't know, structure of small project that is well contained and predictable, then it's probably
Yep.
easier to sell it like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't enjoy those projects. So the projects I usually do
Hmm.
are very custom and freeform and have different shapes and sizes. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes it super hard. At least that's my impression. Um,
I,
yeah.
yeah. No, I think you're completely right. Like that process seems like it could only work if you're doing packaged things, with a repeatable process, the same thing every single time. Um, and yeah, I'm with you. Like I've had the same experience. Has not worked. Has not worked well for me in the past to try to do it that way. And even in the present isn't exactly like crushing it.
Mm.
I the work I have ample work, and make a fine gonna make a fine wage in 2018 and 2019, but certainly like the promise is not fulfilled. Yeah, in terms of smoothing it out. That's so but you prefer to do custom custom projects every time. Is that what
Yeah,
you're?
for the most part. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm enjoying that way more because it's like new challenges and
Mm-hmm.
new stuff to work
How do you
on, new
bill?
stuff to learn.
How do you bill for that?
Um, that depends a little bit on the project. So sometimes I just do fixed price projects where the scope is pretty clear or I have a good feeling about it. Like especially when it's small stuff, like this Facebook export, that's a fixed price project because I mean, I don't bill for the waiting time. I record podcasts while the
Oh
export is
yeah,
running.
right.
But like
Yeah,
building that
yeah.
was super easy. So it was easy to estimate and do a fixed price project. Also with that new consulting client, we agreed on a fixed price for a first like very narrow scope project just to get a feel
Mm-hmm.
if it's a good fit and if we work well together. And after
Yeah.
that, I usually use a daily rate and sometimes combine it with like a sprint concept where they basically book, um, I don't know, 2 weeks of my time and then yeah, basically we iterate on the product and it's not bound to a scope, but more like you work on that project for the next 2 weeks and then we do a review and basically the Scrum sprint concept applied
Mm-hmm.
to the consulting work, and
Mm-hmm.
that usually works quite well um,
Yeah.
with the long running projects.
Do you ever do any hourly billing?
Only in emergencies on weekends where I'm not supposed to
Yeah.
work at all. Then that's
Yeah.
hourly, and I usually use a ridiculously high rate to prevent
Yeah.
that from happening as much as possible.
That's that's a good strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah. I go ahead. Go ahead.
I used to do hourly billing when I started out, but it's just, I don't know, it doesn't work that way in reality. Like, I'm not sitting there with a timer starting and stopping whenever I start to think about a project, especially like sometimes it's at night and you're at home and your computer is already off, but you're still thinking about it. And
Mm-hmm.
in theory, that's billable time. But I mean, who goes into their time tracker to start and stop the clock for that?
Yeah.
So I figured
Yep.
just dedicating a day to a project is probably a good idea.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
How do you
I
do this?
so well, it's been, I mean, over the past 2 years, it's been kind of all over the place where some have been um, fixed scope, and then that presented its own challenges. Like we allowed the, or I allowed the scope to be too complex out of the gate instead of like, okay, it's going to be a fixed scope project, but let's like really slice it down. Um, and have definitely done some like one-off hourly stuff at a pretty high rate, which was, I mean, it was fine. It was better than fine. It was good.
Hmm.
Um, but just the idea of just tracking hours just isn't very. It just isn't fun. And that was that one made sense though because it was like a pure product strategy, um, contracting thing, going into the office, working with their team, facilitating meetings, and that sort of thing. So it was pretty easy to quote track hours on that one because it was all time in their office with them.
Hmm.
And I've done like block, purchasing 40-hour blocks at a time. And then, on my side, I just set out either a half a day or a full day um, to work on that client. So I'm not
Yeah.
tracking 2 hours here, an hour and a quarter there, but just
Yeah.
half a day or a full day. That works fine. And the client likes it. And because it's just such like rolling scope from week to week that it kind of there is no fix there's no way to do like a fixed scope on this for this particular client in the situation that they're in. It would be like a huge shift
Yeah.
for their mindset anyway. But again, like it feels like this is the this is just the you know nature of some types of consulting and freelance work where each project is a little bit different and needs to be addressed a little bit differently. Um,
Mm.
and that has pros and cons. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely had my share of mixed experiences with fixed price billing, for example, and hourly billing and stuff like that as well. But I remember this one project where I was way off with my estimate, and I think I estimated for like 2 weeks, and it was more like 2 months.
Yeah, that that stings.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
and it's
mean,
gonna
yeah,
it's
happens from time
yeah,
to time.
it does. It happens from time to time. Ideally balanced out by a project that doesn't take nearly that much time, but
Yeah.
delivers a huge amount of value to the client, so they pay what comes out to be an enormous effective hourly rate.
Yeah.
Um, how do you handle proposals? I think because that's, I mean, one thing that has me leaning towards, yes, if I could just have a predefined set of packages, and a defined sales process, it'll reduce the amount of time I spend word crafting a given proposal. How do you handle proposals?
I don't really do proposals that much,
Yeah. Okay.
at least lately. In the past, when it was like a more like greenfield project, then I usually I do like a workshop with them, like a road mapping workshop, and well, first let them pay for that, and then use that workshop to figure out what they want to build, and basically break down their ideas into small features, and then do an this thing has a name, this exercise, but it's like prioritizing things using index cards and then basically sorting it. What's most important, what has to be in there, and then walking through the cards with them and finding out where the MVP is, and then I usually do an estimate on that part and come up with a fixed price or an estimate, time based estimate for a kind of proposal. But I don't write huge documents these days. I tried this once, but in the end, it wasn't worth the time and effort.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, I have like a good, handful of proposals that I've done. Because I have gone a little bit, uh, not heavy, but in terms of like massive proposal documents, but definitely give a lot of attention to phrasing it based on our conversations.
Mm.
Fair amount of yeah, fair amount of writing in those things. Which I've always justified as being worth it because I mean, it's not like it's a $400 job. It's like something between $10,000 and $25,000 for a
Mm.
project.
Yeah.
And so it feels like, yeah, I mean, it's also coming from a referral, so I have really high confidence that this is likely to close. So it feels like hours that are worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess just as I'm sitting here thinking through the thing of, and I'm sure a lot of other freelancers and consultants are thinking through it too. Maybe if they're listening, is yes, totally feast or famine. That is such a drag to be in. Wouldn't it be nice if blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
one of the pieces of it that is frustrating is doing custom proposals for every project. Sounds like you just don't do them. that's I guess that's one answer. It's just
Yeah, I mean, it's not
yeah,
like
there's
not formal proposals in the sense of a huge document. I mean, I
yeah,
do write emails that outline what I'm thinking of doing and what that price will be, and maybe if it makes sense, have packages in
yeah,
there. But that's
yeah,
that's about it. It's like not a super polished document. It's more like a free-form email with a suggestion, I
okay,
guess. Do you
yeah.
like do you also have a contract, or do you use the proposal as a contract in a sense?
In most cases, the client has a contract that they want me to countersign.
Mm, okay.
I also have like a very just boilerplate statement amendment to basically a statement of work that I use.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I usually end up doing. I mean, if it's going to be a high ticket project, a proposal that outlines our discussions that we've had, what they're trying to solve, how I propose to solve it, and what the delivery would look like and the price. And then if they agree to that, then there's a much more condensed, sounds kind of like where you begin, like outlined statement of work. Like, okay, leave
Yeah.
the proposal behind at this point. This is what we're doing. And then
Mm-hmm.
we sign that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. We got a couple of comments about this just in mentioning it briefly last week. So I want to, put it out there again. I'm willing to bet a lot of y'all listening are in a similar boat or have been. So reach out. We're Slow Steady Pod. You can find each of us from there, B Ray and Benedikt on Twitter. Um, Benedikt, anything else you wanna add here?
Um, Not really. One thing I want to mention is we're doing an experiment with UserList, and we're thinking about doing office hours. And I think there will be one the day this episode comes out. So if you want to join the UserList office hours, check the Twitters and
Yeah.
see what time we decided to do it on.
What? Yeah. Hey, talk a little bit more about that. That sounds really interesting. What are office hours? What's the goal? Like, what's
So, well, the goal in a way is to stay in touch with the community, to get more feedback and just be helpful and yeah, help people in those office hours. We don't really know how they will work. So far, we just figured let's do one and see what happens.
Okay.
The
But
rough idea
the
is
idea
people
is somebody
come
can
in
sign
and
up. They
yeah, it's probably going to be a Zoom call, I guess, and you can join and ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. And yeah, that's about
pretty
it.
cool. We've got you who could answer dev questions, Jane UI UX questions, and Claire who can answer customer marketing and business questions.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah. That's man. You may see me.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would at least make it worth it. So far, we're a little bit on the side of yeah, let's do it and announce it, but maybe nobody will show up.
And I'm sure people will. I'm sure people will show up. Yeah, listeners, you seriously, you want to find yourself a time slot on that. That's some serious value.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it. Do you have anything to add for this week?
No, only to say that we were getting ready to hit record. I can't believe we're already eight episodes in. This has just been a ton of fun, Benedikt. I'm loving this.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I'm enjoying this as well.
Cool.
And with the new microphone, it's so much better.
Yeah, hopefully everybody notices and approves. So, show notes at slowandsteadypodcast.com. I mentioned you can find us on Twitter, Slow Steady Pod. Please reach out. It's always fun to hear from y'all and to get your thoughts, get your opinions. And I guess we will talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. Bye.